Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Joe Theodore, professional astrologer and intuitive life strategist, and it's an honor to have you here with me today. So guys, I want to muse a little bit on Saturn in Pisces, the transit that we've been experiencing so far for about, I want to say 13, 14 months by now. And I'll never forget the day when Saturn ingressed into Pisces, because every astrologer I know, every colleague I know, we were just so excited to have it leave Aquarius. And that's no offense to anybody who has heavy Aquarius placements, but Aquarius has been such an activation for collective upheaval and chaos, to be quite frank. And why do I say that, guys? I say that because Pluto, another major transit everybody has been anticipating, will find its new home in Aquarius permanently after essentially the 2024 US election. But that big transit, again, something I'll probably talk about for years, if this YouTube channel continues, which I hope it will. Because Pluto in Aquarius is going to change the world. Plain and simple. And Uranus will be going into Gemini, another massive slow-moving planet, changing signs within the same year and a half as Pluto finally staying in Aquarius forever. Forever, you know what I mean. And then we have Neptune going into Aries next year. So we're talking about Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus changing signs all around, technically, in the grand scheme of astrological time, like almost together. And that is life-changing. The future as we know it will not look the same, guys. And I'm just warning you. And I'm not saying that this in a negative way or a challenging way, because, the world will evolve or it will collapse. But then if it does collapse, it will evolve again. Just like our life. Everything in the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. So anytime something collapses or dissolves, which that's a key word, guys, dissolve, and I'll get back to that. At some point, we rebuild ourselves. We rebuild a new psyche or an aspect of our psyche to move forward in life, right? So the future is going to be like nothing we've ever seen before. And Saturn in Aquarius was a preview of what Pluto in Aquarius might bring in another flavor. And now that Saturn is in Pisces, there's a bunch of things I would like to bring up, as best as I can today, with not going overboard and babbling on too much. But I must talk about Aquarius. And the only reason why I brought up Pluto in Aquarius is because Pluto in Aquarius will only take what Saturn did, blow it up, and truly transform the world and truly transform our Aquarius part of our birth chart. Because we are going to see major challenges and successes and innovations and all of the good stuff as well. Especially when we have Pluto, which is known for deep psychological and transpersonal transformation. So you, in whatever area Aquarius is in, will be transformed. That area of your life will be transformed. Just like Saturn during its time in Aquarius, which was during the COVID years, guys. And I won't talk too much about that, but I will maybe in a moment when I talk about Pisces, because Saturn is halfway through Pisces, believe it or not. It will retrograde back a little bit to about 13 or 12 degrees, but then it will go direct again for the next year, essentially, until it gets into Aries. That's a whole other conversation. But Saturn in Aquarius, and Aquarius generally speaking in this day and age, and whatever house and part of your life Aquarius occupies, it was taught a major lesson. You were taught something profound in the way that you handle life in that particular area of your life, the way that you structure your life, the way that things in your life might have been completely stunted, because Saturn restricts. Saturn wants you to practice patience. Saturn will take things away from you to see if you really want them. So how hard are you going to work for that thing, you know? On a collective level, Saturn in Aquarius brought the world to its knees. It stopped the world. We had a pandemic. And then we had governments and society and science and all of the rest, which again, I'm not picking a side in any way in this conversation. I'm just looking at this as a technician. The world shut down. Scientists were telling us this. The governments were telling us that. We had rules and regulations. We had all types of very, very serious, we had very serious, I'm just going to stick to the word rules to play it safe here. We had serious rules placed upon free societies. And again, I'm not saying what happened during those years was a good or a bad thing, because there's a mixed, I'm a middle path guy. So I see the good and the bad on both sides. And that was a very confusing time. But the point is Saturn stopped the world. Saturn stopped the way society worked. Systems and rules and regulations and societies and governments, institutions, all things that Saturn represents as well. And Aquarius, by the way. That is what Saturn did to all of us. It stopped the world. It made us really, really pay attention to what's important. It awakened us in a lot of ways as well to how do we want to live in society? What is society? What is this? Can we trust these people? Whatever the case may be. That's what people were thinking. That's what was going on in the collective consciousness. And that was trickling into all of us. And then we all picked a side and we were trying to figure out navigating this new world because no one knew what was going to happen, right? No one knew. But all of us astrologers were saying, well, just wait until Pluto gets into Aquarius. And I'm not saying there's going to be another pandemic or anything, but I'm saying the world will be moving at a rapid pace into a new direction that we've never seen before. And technology will be playing a big part of this. And the way governments and systems are run will have a big part of this. And then whatever house and part of your life Aquarius was during your Saturn transit, that part of your life was also being very, very, there was a spotlight on that part of your life. You were probably faced with a lot of challenge during those years, during the COVID times. And I could say for myself, it was spot on. It was spot on. I felt Saturn really isolated me in that particular area of my life. And I had to really work through things that I wasn't able to do. I had to find new innovative ways to do new things, which means I had to start from scratch in many ways on how to rebuild, some things in my life that were very specific to the Aquarian part of my birth chart, that part of my life. But when Pluto gets into Aquarius, I think on a personal level, we will be able to use Pluto consciously, even though there are things we won't have control over. But I think we'll be able to use Pluto consciously to take what Saturn did and to really allow us to have a shamanic moment of rebirth. We will be able to rebirth ourselves in that area of our life, whether for the good or the bad, whether we have to leave things or start new things or whatever we have to do to transform whatever that part of your life is. Pluto, I think, will be giving us all the opportunity to evolve ourselves in that part of your life like you've never thought, which I think is a beautiful thing. Now let's get back to Saturn in Pisces, this transit. So when Saturn entered Pisces, it was towards the end of when the world was starting to really relax, like really relax. Because for a while during those Saturn in Aquarius years, we were all figuring out life and restrictions, and, eventually the restrictions started to ease and life started to go back to normal, for all people, even the people that were most afraid of, all of those years and, the sickness and everything else. And everyone who thought we were going to be taken over by authoritarian dictators, that never happened, right? So things started to relax, and then Saturn entered Pisces. But then what happens when Saturn entered Pisces? What's the one thing every astrologer first said? Well, now it's with Neptune. Neptune, the planet of illusion, delusion, creativity, dreams, spirituality, enlightenment, but what's real, what isn't real, dissolving reality. And Saturn being all about structure, discipline, work, nose to the grindstone, again, authority figures, teachers that have control over others. That was being challenged by the world now. It's almost like there's a subtle uprise from the world to almost hold accountable the institutions in a way. And again, I'm not trying to make this video political, but this is just one angle. And I'll mention another example in a second. But a lot of people are looking to dissolve the old world, the old ways, to birth a new one. So there's a lot of that going on. And maybe in your own life, whatever Pisces is occupying, maybe there's a part of your life that is needing to be restructured and need to be dreamed into being. As the shamans of Peru that I once studied with, they're all about dreaming a world into being, intention to create something from nothing. And Saturn in Pisces has the potential to birth something from nothing, to dissolve something that once was, that was a structure, that was discipline, that was this, that, and the other thing, and to find a new way to creatively birth something. And it's in its best manifestation, a new world, a new way of working, a new way of manifesting can be achieved when you have a transit such as Saturn in Pisces. But it also means you'll have to work hard for that dream, that new reality, that new ideology. And I say the word ideology in a positive way, not some psychopath way that, that word gets thrown around a lot these days. But Saturn in Pisces is great for dissolving the old and birthing the new. Having a death to be reborn. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, which represents death, which represents the last stage of our evolution from a zodiacal perspective, So Saturn being there with Neptune, by the way, one, doesn't make things any clearer. I think there's still a lot of confusion in whatever area of that part of your life is potentially. And I feel if you've been trying to get structure for years in that particular area of your life, Saturn being there can provide some stability and structure in that area with the Piscean energy. But at the same time, it's also dissolving. It's dissolving so something new and physical can be reborn once it gets into Aries down the line. From a collective perspective. But from your personal perspective, it all is very much specifically tailored to where this falls in your birth chart, right? I say it all the time because any astrologer who doesn't is just throwing out, baseless comments on what may actually happen to you in your life, because the collective astrology, of course, influences us. But if you really want to get specific, this all has to do with where Pisces is in your birth chart, guys. And I know for me, Saturn in Pisces in my particular area of life has been, one, introducing a new creative way of handling that part of my life, like introducing inspiration and creativity there, but also me needing to work hard to bring that dream into being. You know, these ideas I have, these visions I have of the way I would like that part of my life to be. But it's telling me, Saturn, that you're going to have to work, though. You're going to have to put in the time. This isn't going to happen overnight. So on the world stage, Saturn in Pisces, if you haven't noticed in the last year and a half, since its transit in Aquarius ended, the world has been trying to figure its shit out. The world has been trying to figure out what needs to go, what needs to change, what systems need to be dissolved, what can we do to build a new world. And again, we're in the middle of so much chaos that will probably only get worse, guys, before it gets better. And that's the honest truth from a collective point of view. But it's so essential for human evolution to take this road forward, because there wouldn't be life if it didn't evolve in some way. All life needs to learn its lessons in order to evolve or repeat. And most of the time, humanity likes to repeat, which is why astrology, when you reflect and you look back into the past and observe the cycles of the planets, you see themes repeat themselves, which is why I'm worried a little bit about the next 5 to 10 years with the collective. But it's a part of the story, guys. Pluto in Aquarius will transform the world. Neptune going into Aries will transform the world. Uranus and Gemini will transform the world. Technology will continue to go in the direction that some may think is the right thing, and some may say this is the downfall of humanity. But Saturn in Pisces is an important transit, and we're halfway through it. And I think if you really did take a look at the world, and of course your life, wherever part of your life Pisces occupies, and just reflect. What is Saturn doing there for you? What has changed in that part of your life from what was going on in Aquarius for you? For me, Saturn in Pisces is a much easier transit than my transit through Aquarius. And that part of my life where Saturn is now was longing for Piscean energy to be structured. Because that part of my life was very unbalanced. It was very confused. And that's because Neptune has been there, of course, which it still is. Don't get me wrong. There's still things in that part of my life that are like all wonky and wobbly, but there are many parts of my life there that needed structure, needed a vision to be put in stone, to have something, to have a foundation. That's the word I'm looking for. That part of my life was looking for a foundation in this Piscean, these infinite waters of Pisces. That Neptune has been doing nothing but not making life any clearer there. And Saturn is beginning to provide the truth and the knowledge of how to build, and how patience is required to build and to create, or to dissolve things that aren't working and to rebuild. Even if the world looks like it's losing its mind and people want to dissolve old ways and start new things and bring a new world into being, that doesn't mean it's happening with Saturn there. It just means we're starting to see what the potential is. We're starting to have the conversation. Saturn is bringing the conversation to the table, But it's up to us and our free will to put our conscious effort into manifesting and rebuilding. So I hope this little talk was helped you today. I do hope it helped you. There's a lot more I can say on this. I know I bounced around a lot and talked about a lot of other big transits happening, but it really all ties into a bigger story, guys, like all astrology, especially when we're dealing with big planets. Saturn moves pretty quick compared to Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune, of course, but the fact that Saturn has been setting the stage in the structures and the way that we must work in order to accomplish anything, or the way Saturn will challenge us to see if something in our life is really what we want it to be. Because Saturn will challenge you. Saturn will challenge you and will make you question sometimes if what you're doing is the right thing, because maybe it seems like Saturn is keep setting you back 3 steps, setting you back 5 steps, when in reality, Saturn just wants to make sure that this is the new thing you want. Is this the new way of being you want to be? Is this the new world that the world wants? And just like during its transit in Aquarius, we all as people were tested by the ones that are in power. Just plain and simple. That's just what happened. The restrictions, the lockdowns, just think about that energy we all went through. That's a classic Saturn. Like, no matter what zodiac sign you get into that Saturn occupies, you're going to feel that constriction. You're going to feel that tension, but there's some knowledge in there. There's knowledge in there. And when you befriend Saturn, you can really make waves in this world. You can learn to see through the illusion of things, which is something else Pisces and Saturn and Pisces is teaching us. Can we actually see reality beyond illusion? Where Saturn in Aquarius was, reality is really putting its iron clamps on us all. What do we do to manipulate, and how do we as people, societies, how do we shape and shift to make our own lives more structured and disciplined, when something decides to impose its will upon us? So Saturn, from the societal perspective, put its clamp on us, right, during those years. But we were also tasked with the challenge, whatever area of our life that was. Okay, what are we going to do to make our lives more strong and sound? What work do we have to put in? Or how patient do we have to be in a certain area of life? And Saturn in Pisces, there's so many, every one of us has a different story, right? On a personal level, we all have a different story. But I feel like all transit, there's the shadow and there's the beautiful. And the beautiful side of this Saturn and Pisces transit is, I think it's allowing a lot of us to really focus on how to be stable in a very, very kind of confusing part of our chart. Pisces, more often than not, wherever Pisces is in your birth chart, there has been probably confusion from time to time in that part of your life. Creative inspiration, all the other Pisces things. Maybe you've had spiritual revelations in certain areas of your life. Maybe you've always looked at certain areas of your life with mystical eyes in that part of your chart where Pisces is. But it's also really, I think, it's bringing stability to all that stuff, though, Like, to the artist, Saturn is probably teaching the artist, like, hey, if you want to sell your art, you're going to need to do this, and that. You need to structure and get disciplined with your business stuff. or you're never going to sell your art. So that's a good example. Or someone who wants to make a movie. It's like, yeah, you got the vision for the movie, but where are you going to get the money? You know, are you going to make sure the script is 100% good to go? How are you going to work with other production companies to get the movie made? Saturn wants to challenge you to help you build a new world, a new life, a new way of going about your business in that particular area of your life. And on a collective level, like I said, the biggest observation I see is that the world is dissolving. The stability of the world is on very shaky ground. There's a lot of people who want a new world, which means Saturn is almost in a weakened state. You know, on a collective level, I think Saturn is a little weak. But also it's asking all of us on a collective level, what are we going to do to stabilize the world that seemingly seems to be falling apart? Or what are we going to do that social media has taken over the world? Because Neptune in Pisces has been a social media transit like nothing else. Social media at the beginning of this Neptune in Pisces was just beginning to become like, whoa, what is this social media shit? And now look at it. Neptune's almost out of Pisces. One more year. 1.5 more years. So Saturn is telling us, I think, a story with social media too. Do we really need this social media? Like, is this really helping our lives? Are we stable? Are we really stable in this energy? So that's something else to consider. All right, guys. Well, I'm definitely going to end this video now. I know this was a little long, but I do hope you took something from this. I really just felt like musing on, this particular topic. Let me know what you think, of course. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. And I will see you all very, very soon. Sending you so much love.